Hello, and welcome to Totally Schway, a podcast about the DCAU and sometimes other stuff. My name is Mary.
My name's Luke.
And I must ask for forgiveness. I am not happy today because it's starting to get hot. That is all.
Yeah, it's been unseasonably warm over here, and while it's nice enough when you're outside, it's not great when you're indoors.
Unseasonably warm in England is when it's 60 degrees in the month of April. Oklahoma would never. I think it'd be like 80 or something like that.
Are you just checking that now?
Yeah.
The important up-to-date information here, it'll be the previous day's weather by the time you hear this.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma specifically.
Yeah.
I'm just filling airtime now while you try and find it. Is it the same temperature?
I don't know. My watch is being weird. So, Luke, do you have any news today?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of news. So, first thing, for those of you that collect DC Animated Universe action figures, particularly ones released by Todd McFarlane, Todd McFarlane is releasing 3 figures. It's Etrigan the Demon, Mr. Freeze from the new Batman Adventures, and a repaint of Batman that is kind of like it's the new Batman Adventures model, but with like a dark BTAS style colouring and a silver body. It was, I believe Kenner released a figure. It might have been Hasbro, but I think it was Kenner that released a figure that was like this. They were due to go up for pre-order on the 10th of April, and the day before they put out a statement saying, pre-orders are delayed, we'll get back to you.
I wonder if that's because of the tariffs.
Maybe. It may very well be. I assumed that Todd McFarlane was just trying to find a retailer to make them exclusive with to make it harder for me to buy them.
I don't think Todd watched my video.
No.
Mattel, hi. I've spent so much money with you over the years. Love you. Let's work together. Warner Brothers and I. You guys could work with all of me. Not all of me. I could work with all of you guys. So is that the only bit of news you have today?
Well, just a little tiny bit of personal news, and I'm sure it's not news to most people on here. But...
Oh, wait, hold on. What is that? Do you hear that? Oh, it's a new channel.
Yes, so to give you the backstory, you know how I'd branched out into doing comic book videos as well. Turns out they were really hurting my channel's overall performance because most of the people that subscribe to my channel aren't interested in reading new comics.
Yeah,
so they
like watching stuff.
Yeah, so they would skip over those videos, and then that would tell the YouTube algorithm to skip over all of my videos. And the organic reach has declined quite rapidly over the last sort of 4 months. I think I'm at about 50% what I was before I started doing the comic videos. So, okay, I've started a new channel, Serum Lake Comics, where I will do my comic videos. And then the people that are interested in comic book stuff can just go there and watch those. But as ever, I appreciate your support. And if you could go over there, check out the videos, even rewatch some older ones if you've already seen them, just to help boost my stats a little bit. I've copied over pretty much all of the comic book videos now. Had my first brand new video, which was about Absolute Batman number 7 that went live over the weekend. So yeah, check that out if you please, kindly. Thank you. Words that I can't get out of my mouth at the moment.
I spent last night watching you go through your comics.
Oh, yes.
Well, the comics we have in here. And I thought I was going to be able to just use my label maker, or one of my label makers, because I've got several. I didn't realize how many that you actually had here, because I thought the bulk of them were at your parents' house, but I guess not. I am very happy to say that I will get to play with my label maker today. Come hell or waters high. Should we get to the topic of the podcast?
Yes, let's do it. So today we're going to talk about Mr. Freeze, specifically...
Well, we're going to talk about the episode Heart of Ice.
Yes, specifically Heart of Ice, rather than covering everything to do with Mr. Freeze.
Mm-hmm. Because isn't this the one they won the Emmy for?
Yeah, well, it's one of the ones they won an Emmy for, yes.
Well, the first one that they won the Emmy for. So, in this episode, it is our... Excuse me for moving everything around exactly when I'm starting to speak. This is our introduction to Mr. Freeze and to Nora Freeze and just the cold of it all. So, Mr. Freeze, we get to see that he was it Dr. Freeze?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was Dr. Freeze working at GothCorp. And we get to see that he was fired because he had put Nora in like a cryo container, like what we used to think Walt Disney was in.
Yeah,
well, not we, but some people still think that.
We all know it was just his head that they put in one of those things.
And we get to see a small bit of the love that Mr. Freeze had for Nora. And I say that because we know how much he loved her, but in future episodes I think we see a little bit more. But it was a great introduction. I think what they did to Mr. Freeze was just great. I love the outfit. Purple boots. I mean, come on. And what's interesting is we also, like I said, get our introduction to Nora Freeze, who never speaks, who doesn't open her eyes, who just lies there. And it's a very important character because when you look at so many different TV shows, movies, even in music sometimes, there's always that character. And I know Luke's said as much in one of his videos before, but you have that character that just doesn't talk. And it's just there. Usually in music, it's the song about the girl, that you never actually get to meet. Or in the TV show, it might be like the dad that never speaks or passed on or whatever. And it's that type of character. And it's really cool because of this character, we kind of go through the grieving process with Mr. Freeze. And sorry, I interrupted. I do have a note that's quite important on, I just wrote with my finger on my iPad, but it was beautiful color. I've written a note that says, my first one, I'll actually go and talk about music.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about the music?
Yes, the music is very good. The end. It's great. I mean, it wasn't just Shirley Walker working on this one. I've forgotten the dude's name that did the most of the music for this episode. Shirley Walker composed the theme for Mr. Freeze, so that's kind of like the snow globy music box type theme. You
mentioned in this because you were doing something in the kitchen while I was watching like the first part of it, but I noticed in one of the first fight scenes is a tiny bit different.
What was different about it?
I don't know. It's just when Shirley Walker is playing in one of these episodes, you're like, oh yeah. But this just had a little added flavor to it.
I'm just going to look up his name, the composer. What was his name? Todd Hayen, apparently. Yeah, so I think this might have been the only episode he did, because I don't recall seeing his name in the credits for any other ones.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I really liked that Mr. Freeze is different from a lot of the other characters. I mean, I think a lot of these villains, or just bad guys, their angst is rooted in tragedy. But with Mr. Freeze, we actually see that tragedy.
Yes.
And it's awful.
Yes, yeah, and I thought one of the things that was quite interesting is that Ferris Boyle, when he's talking to Bruce Wayne, he describes Mr. Freeze, Victor Freeze, as, what did he call him, like an obsessed nut or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and that kind of, you can kind of tell that there's something not quite right about him because of just the way that he speaks during his flashback. He's very, ironically, he's kind of cold and detached while he's describing the process that he's putting Nora through on camera.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as Boyle turns up, he just like becomes a shaking, almost stammering wreck. Pulls a gun on him.
This kind of leads me into my next two notes.
Oh, okay.
The second note I wrote down was Mr. Freeze is callous. And the reason I wrote that is kind of what you're describing now, is you can see it's not as clear as some characters when they have a change from normal person to, supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
But you can definitely see the change from him just being Dr. Freeze to Mr. Freeze. And I'm not talking about the physical change.
Yeah.
The voice actor,
Michael Ansara.
Yeah, did such a great job of, it's the same person, but this person has evolved.
Yeah.
And you get to see and hear that evolution. And it's only in a matter of minutes. And it's really cool. And then the thing about the next part of Heart of Ice, when, Boyle busts the door open. He's like, I've put Freeze goes through most of the stages of grief when Ferris Boyle confronts him in his lab. So you see I think the only one that you don't actually see is acceptance.
No.
That's the only one, I think. Because you have denial, anger, bargaining,
mm-hmm.
depression, but you don't see the acceptance.
I think the depression is very much how he's frozen as Mr. Freeze. Because he talks about, like, all emotions are frozen in me, Batman. I'm like, that's not true at all. Your emotional range is more limited, but he very clearly does feel emotion. He feels anger. He feels joy. Look at this big smile on his face while he's freezing Ferris Boyle from the waist up.
I think as a kid, if you would have watched the show when you were a kid, which most of us did, you would have been able to see the cogs in your head start to turn, like if you were looking at yourself, because like he's experienced a loss.
Yes.
But it teaches you a lesson about holding on to something that is already gone. And it's really important to show kids this as well. So
yeah, I think so.
Talking about grief is horrible, because grief is horrible. Losing a loved one is horrible. But a lot of TV shows and movies at the time that were specifically made for children kind of rushed, all of that. Because, oh no, how dare kids know exactly what's going on. Whereas with Batman the animated series, grief was something that rooted his vengeance. And it shows. I'm getting to a point here, eventually. It shows that grief isn't, just on one spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You can go one way, you can go the other, or you could just be in the middle, which most people are. But you see in this, Batman and Mr. Freeze, two people having experienced incredible grief.
Yes.
Yet they go in opposite directions.
Yes.
And it's very important for children to see that. And I'm glad this episode exists.
Yes, and they mention this word at least 3 times that I can think of in the script. Actually, maybe twice. The word is compassion.
Oh, yeah, in 3 different ways as well.
Yes, so Alfred mentions it to Batman when Batman brings the wounded Mr. Freeze thug to the Batcave to melt or thaw the ice from his legs. It says, you're showing a remarkable degree of compassion. Because Batman is compassionate. And then Mr. Freeze... It
says charity, compassion...
Yeah, where were these kind words when my Nora needed them?
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. So this is a point I always make about Heart of Ice in particular. A lot of people say that the title Heart of Ice refers to Mr. Freeze, which I suppose on some level it does because he is now frozen. But the real Heart of Ice in this episode is Ferris Boyle. He is the heartless person. He's the one that ruined Victor Freeze and Nora's life. He's the one that pretends to be the smiling humanitarian of the year when really he's complaining about the wage slaves thinking they own the place, right? And I really appreciate the fact that I think Paul Dini can't resist making jokes sometimes because the name Boyle as the arch enemy of someone whose name is Freeze is a pun. Boil as in like really hot water versus frozen water.
Yeah.
But you know, Mark Hamill does an exceptional job as Ferris Boyle in this, and it's one of the reasons.
Didn't even realize that was him.
You didn't?
No, that's the great. Oh, again, every time I talk about these shows, it's like the voice actors are so. It reminds me of theater. Like they're so different each time.
Yeah, and the backstory here is that Mark Hamill heard they were making a Batman TV show, like a cartoon that was going to be more respectful of the source material. Mark Hamill's a big comic book nut, and I wonder if I know his house burnt down in the LA fires. I hope his comics didn't burn in that.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so he got his agent to get in touch with Andrea Romano and say, hey, Mark Hamill wants to do a guest role. And when he turned up they cast him as Ferris Boyle. But he turned up and said, hey, I really like this. I would like a recurring role if possible. Could I be Hugo Strange? Could I be Clayface maybe? And they said, well, we'll get back in touch. And then they had their whole... Alan Burnett came on board and decided that they should switch up Tim Curry as the Joker. They didn't want him playing that role anymore. And then Mark Hamill just kind of landed in their lap.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how these things work out in life, isn't it?
Yeah. So, where was Mr. Freeze the entire time?
So this is the funny thing that I didn't really think about before. I mean, I noticed it the last time I watched it, but we watched it again today. But Mr. Freeze, his base was actually in Gothcorp. He was still in Gothcorp. I guess after that lab accident, everything was like super frozen over. And he had spent a year in there, toiling away. Nobody went in to check on him. And the reason why I know this is he is in Gothcorp, or was in Gothcorp. Because when he takes Batman back to his lair and has him like frozen upside down, a bit like Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back. When Batman escapes, he opens a door in an alleyway, and then ice comes all around the building. And at this moment, Mr. Freeze is out the front, freezing the Gothcorp office so that no one can escape. So that indicates to me that he had been in that basement for the last year, plotting his revenge. And he'd been like, hundreds of feet away from Ferris Boyle this whole time, lying in wait.
Like a spider.
Yeah, and it just kind of blows my mind a little bit that nobody went down there at all. Even after the accident, I guess they just kind of closed the whole place off and were just like, let's just try and forget about it. Did they not notice the men in those winter coats coming in and out?
The henchmen.
Yeah, the henchmen. So they were a nice callback to the 1960s TV series Mr. Freeze.
Where can I get me a faux fur jacket like that? I'm sure I could actually find one.
In that shade of blue.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Duh.
Because Mr. Freeze's henchmen all wore like coats like that in the 60s Batman TV show.
It's not my color,
No.
but it would be nice to have. My last note, which was actually my first note. Why aren't there letters or numbers on Bat's computer?
Well, presumably, so this is a funny point, actually. So, presumably it was to save money on animating it, because if you had to draw the letters on each key, then that would take a long time and add to the cost. But speaking of taking a long time and adding to the cost, the studio that animated this episode is Spectrum Animation. They went bust.
Yeah.
Partially because of their work on Batman the Animated Series, because they went the extra mile and they did a lot of extra work. So, did we talk about On Leather Wings in the podcast? We didn't, did we? I did a video about it, that's right.
We haven't.
So in On Leather Wings, which is the first episode they did, they added a couple of extra frames to make the animation smoother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't charge extra for it. So basically, let's just say they took on 10% more work, but took the same amount of money. So they ended up losing money for making that episode. And they did something similar with Heart of Ice, where they airbrushed frost on Mr. Freeze's helmet in every single scene.
I was going to mention that because I found that really beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Because it's attention to detail that other shows wouldn't think about.
Yeah, and if you look at later episodes or like Deep Freeze, which I'm sure we'll talk about one day, the studio that animated that episode, I believe it was Dong Yang, they just filled in the helmet with just a shade of blue so that it looked a bit frosty. Whereas Spectrum airbrushed white frost over the top of his helmet in every single scene he's in. Now, when you think that there's, I don't know, what is it, like 15 frames a second, something like that? They have to do that 15 times for every second Mr. Freeze is in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's remarkable. And I have in my collection, I have one of the cells from that episode. There's a shot of Mr. Freeze like lifting Batman up by his throat in the Gothcorp ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
If you pause on that scene, you'll see that the lines look quite thick and inky, and it's kind of hard to see what's going on. I have discovered that the reason for that is because they had to do a retake for that shot because I believe they coloured Mr. Freeze's, I think it was his boots and his glove, the wrong shade of purple. So they had to do a retake where they had to, where they basically printed out another version of the cell and then filled it in with purple, just the boots and the hands and the head, and then they just stuck it on top of their other work.
It's quite funny, completely kind of off topic, but not really. As someone who has liked the color purple a lot of her life,
mm-hmm.
In the past year, I think I've hyperfixated on the color purple, a lighter color purple, and Mr. Freeze's boots
and his gloves
are in a shade of purple I don't mind. So that's that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the animation quality in this episode is excellent. That studio Spectrum was founded by people that worked at Tokyo Movie Shinsha, or TMS, as people may know, and they did episodes like Feet of Clay and Feet of Clay Part 2, I should say, and Two-Face Part 1. They did some other ones as well that I'm drawing a blank on at the moment. Funnily enough, I heard from Kevin Altieri that TMS... they didn't do very many episodes of Batman because they would prefer to work on something that was produced by Steven Spielberg at Warner Brothers instead. So they basically said, all right, we'll do a couple of episodes of Batman based on our availability, but as soon as Spielberg comes calling, we're dropping you. Which I'm just like, what? How? I don't even know what they would have done. Maybe Animaniacs, possibly. No, it wouldn't have been Tiny Toons because Tiny Toons had finished by that point. Probably would have been Animaniacs then. I'll have to double check that. Someone call the fact checker.
Is there a saying Animaniacs?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was like thinking in my head, I was like, is this just a Mary thing? Because I do the theme songs in my head, and a lot of the time it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But TMS would come back and do a lot of Superman they did a lot of that in-house, actually, which is part of the reason why some of those episodes have got a slightly more anime feel to them. They're particularly like the late Mr. Kent, where the bomb goes off and the screen goes white with those black streaky lines across Clark Kent.
I wouldn't mind having a cell from that if there was one.
Oh, there's bound to be. What, of the explosion, or just
not of the explosion?
Anyone
just
from that episode?
Probably anything for that episode. Like, I would love the if there were a cell of Lois's face when she's like, like that at the end when she sees Lana, like that little scrunched up face.
I could look for it. I've been eyeing up some Lobo cells, actually. Not that I need to spend any more money. I've spent way too much money.
But it's there for a reason.
Yeah, well, money's there to be spent. I'm keeping the economy moving, frankly. It's all me.
There's a thing on TikTok at the moment where it's like, yeah, I shop too much. Stimulating the economy. I don't shop as much as some people, I guess.
Some people being me.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice. I like, at the moment, another hyperfixation of mine, I got into this vintage Dusties lady who's amazing on TikTok and YouTube. And she's gotten me back into a love for like nail polish and nail stuff. So that's really great. Has nothing to do with the Mr. Freeze episode.
No.
But I really liked this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one of my favorites? It's not one of my favorites, but it's one that I would always recommend.
Yeah.
Because it is an important episode.
It is one of my favourites. I think it's maybe the second best one. I think Trial's my favourite one.
It is one of the best ones.
Yes.
But in terms of something that, really just speaks to me, there are other episodes.
Yeah. I think it's very much a kind of if you wanted to show someone Batman the Animated Series and what it was about and what it represented, you'd probably pick Heart of Ice.
That's what I was saying. Yeah,
because it's the most representative of it. And funnily enough, in the making of the show, I've talked about this before, how they had a story editor, a lady named Sean Catherine Derrick, who she was instructed by the studios to make a more traditional kid-friendly cartoon, so she kind of butted heads a lot with Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, to the point that they were basically they stopped production, and then Alan Burnett was hired, and he stepped in and sided with Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, and he brought Paul Dini back into the fold, because Paul Dini was involved early on, but then he'd kind of left to go work on other things, and Alan Burnett brought him back and said, write whatever you like. And Paul Dini wrote Heart of Ice.
Is his name on the Emmy?
He's got an Emmy. All the writers got an Emmy, I believe.
I wonder if their names are on it.
I don't know, I have to ask Dan. Dan's got an Emmy.
Dan, is your name on your Emmy?
What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So they had the script for Heart of Ice come in. And they basically use that as like a tonal template for the rest of the series, or the episodes produced from that point on. You also had episodes like Feet of Clay, which Marty Pasco wrote the outline for and then gave it to Michael Reeves and Marv Wolfman. Alan Burnett's own, or I should say Alan Burnett and Randy Rogel's own Two-Face. They were the ones that really set the tone for the series, I think. And the rest is history. So it's funny how, people go on about, Batman the Animated Series is such an amazing show. If you watch some of those early episodes, like, say, The Forgotten, The Underdwellers, The Last Laugh, I've Got Batman in My Basement, they're not great. They're okay. But then you have episodes like the ones I've mentioned previously, Two-Face and Heart of Ice and Feet of Clay, etc., that are just a whole other level, and they are the thing that people remember when they think about Batman the Animated Series as a whole. They go, oh my god, yeah, that scene where Harvey Dent turns to Grace and you see his face is burnt in half. Mr. Freeze's tearful monologue at the end of Heart of Ice, crying into his snow globe. Clayface's meltdown in the TV broadcast room, etc.
I'm holding my Diet Cherry 7-Up to my cheek right now. Am I the opposite of Mr. Freeze? Because this was super cold. And then I put it up against my cheek to feel some of the cold, and now it's quite warm.
Yeah, well, you've heated it up. You are like a little radiator, actually. This
room's like Volcana.
Yeah, this room's turning into like a sauna at the moment.
Yeah, Mr. Freeze, is probably one of the most notable characters for me when it comes to Batman the Animated Series, and a good part because of this episode. I used the word callous earlier, but when you research Mr. Freeze, it is callous. That is the word, and vengeful, and the opposite of compassionate.
Well, I think that's why they deliberately said compassionate so many times in the episode.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from this episode. You learn a lot about compassion. You learn a lot about grief. You also learn a lot about understanding, especially from obviously Batman, because Batman doesn't just see Freeze as this evil bad guy that's just doing things just to do them. He understands the grief of it all. He understands that Freeze is in a situation that he understands.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, but he understands it. And I think you can kind of see that when Batman is watching Mr. Freeze from outside, watching him from his cell outside, talking to his snow globe. And you see that's understanding, compassion, and there's another word that I'm trying to get out of my head, but it's not. If I ever come back to it, I'll tell you. But it's really cool how it's not just a flat episode. It's not a flat episode. It's not a filler episode, although some filler episodes are great. It is one of the stars in the universe of the DCAU.
Yeah, it is. There is, and there's another line in there right near the end where after Batman has shattered Mr. Freeze's helmet with his chicken soup. If you've never seen the episode, this is going to sound really random.
Brilliant.
But Freeze is crawling around on the floor in agony, reaching out at Boyle, trying to grab a hold of him. He goes, vengeance! And Batman says, not vengeance.
Justice.
Yes. And then he hands over the evidence to Summer Gleason and say, Ferris Boyle destroyed 2 people's lives a year ago. Here is all the evidence. Goodbye, Mr. Humanitarian, and walks off.
Oh, the way he says...
Or humanitarian.
Yeah, humanitarian.
And funnily enough, it echoed the tone of Freeze earlier when he was watching the news story about Ferris Boyle getting the Humanitarian of the Year award, and he freezes the TV. That's the point where he says, compassion, where were such feelings for my Nora?
Yeah, it's one of those episodes where you learn so much every time you watch it. The script hasn't changed in 30 years.
Yeah.
Or longer.
35.
Yeah. I stay nervous. Yeah, it's like you see a different thing, and that's what. Wow. And I've said this over and over again, but when you watch these shows, like, Batman, Superman, Justice League, or any of the DCAU shows, it feels like you do learn something new every time you watch it. And I find that so interesting as somebody who likes rewatching things over and over again, because it helps me feel comfortable in life, to know what's I'm watching to know what's gonna come, and then I find something new, but I still know the outcome of it, but it's a new understanding of the outcome that I've already seen. And you can compare that to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I watch Grey's Anatomy. Or I used to. I don't watch it as much as I used to. I repeat episodes anyway.
I mean, you rewatch American Dad and Family Guy all the time.
Yeah.
But that's more of your kind of winding down show, isn't it? So you don't have to think about it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go bananas!
I hate Steve Smith so much. Oh, if he was my son, he'd be in so much trouble.
So do you think we should get to the comments now?
Yes, yeah, let's do it. So, last time we discussed the DCAU version of Orion, Darkseid's favourite son, even though he never sees him. Maybe that's why he liked him so much. So the first comment we have was from Mandalorian Hunter 1, who's one of my channel members, actually, as you can tell from the little green bat logo he's got next to his name in the comments. Yeah.
How much is it to...
$1.99 per month, and you get early access to all of my videos.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, they know. They all know.
Obviously, I'm joking.
They know. I don't need to. I'm preaching to the choir.
When I'm doing subtitles for you, sometimes I say it as I'm listening to it, don't I?
I hear you like
send
mouthing
the
on.
bucket to my way. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? As an English person, you do say buck quite nicely.
Well, yeah, it's because I have a lot of practice saying a similar sounding word that is not ad friendly.
Truck?
Yes, that's the one. All right, so Mandalorian Hunter 1 says Orion was interesting. He felt guilt and resented being Darkseid's son, but he still had many traits from his father. He looked down upon the lower class of New Genesis and even looked down upon Flash. I just realised that the Flash was seen as less than by 3 new gods, but ended up proving them wrong. Orion was baffled how Flash could be a hero with Batman putting him in his place, which is ironic, as he had no power, but stood up to a god. Orion finally saw Flash for who he was, and what he represented. That was from the episode, was it Flash and Substance, the one with the Flash Museum? I believe so, from Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
Yes, very true, very true. Next we have Carlos1234 IFY. Carlos1234 iffy. Okay, that's what I'm going to try and say. Who says, I love your videos. Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate you watching them, especially since YouTube's algorithm has been...
weird.
It's been hiding my stuff. Well, it's not been hiding. It's just not been pushing it as much. But yeah, always appreciate kind words. Thank you very much.
We love you.
Next, we have Lowell Lucas Jr., who says, hey, today it's totally Schway. Orion's in awe, so talk while you have a jaw. Time to end Darkseid's law. Okay, that one was a bit strained. I'll allow it, but it was a bit strained.
Don't you talk about my friend that way. I loved it. Could you do better?
No.
No, you could not.
Morning, Orion lovers. Just wanted to thank you all for the well wishes. I'm still healing, but slowly getting some artwork ready and taking my time during the healing process, so thanks to you all.
Good.
Luke, I'm sorry, but I wrote a Big Mikey P style tome below, so please have your water ready to clear your throat. It's a long one. Oh,
don't you worry about Luke.
To begin, is anyone a fan of the Venture Brothers? Not only did the Tick creator contribute to writing later episodes, but even our own Clancy Brown plays an iconic villain, the Red Death. Imagine if Batman's the Reaper merged with Red Skull and Ghost Rider, but appreciates classic villainy and is a family man with a hot wife and sweet daughter. Now on to Orion Auto Parts. That's a reference that I don't get.
Oh my gosh, it's O'Reilly's Auto Parts, isn't it?
Probably. I don't know, is that a commercial?
Pause this for a second. Okay, I had to actually YouTube the song so Luke could hear it. It's Orion.
Auto Parts. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, it's the one. It's gonna be flying in.
Yes. Stop laughing at his, I've forgotten what it's called, Cosmic Glider, whatever it was. The Cosmic Zimmer frame.
I didn't know.
Astral Glider, that was it.
I thought O'Reilly's was just like an Oklahoma thing. The more you know.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay, so to be honest, I agree with Mary. The Astro Harness, there's the name, is a hilarious name. It does look like something made inside of a shed. But then again, it's comic tradition to have ridiculous names for obscure devices or powers. Do you know what, actually? I believe Jack Kirby was an innovator of that, so there we go. Like the Cosmic Treadmill, the Speed Force, the Manhunters, or even the witty fourth wall breaking banter of the Ambush Bug. It's just plain funny. Question for Screen Wiper. Have you ever seen Return to Oz by Disney? They have a talking chicken named Bolina that reminds me of your hens and would be so delightful if they ever talked or gave help on stopping giant rocky gnome kings. I apologise for forgetting the commenter's name, but let me share a bit of Venom knowledge on his hate for the Spider. Now, think of Peter Parker as that nerdy New Yorker who was given powers. He has the confidence of hiding behind a mask and be snarky to anyone without suspecting repercussions. The way he deals with people as Parker and Spider is two different ways of being unsuspecting to just jerky, as no one knows it's him. Now remember, the alien costume remembers and shares your thoughts and feelings. And after it being emotionally betrayed, imagine it sharing this knowledge with someone who absolutely hated you for how you have treated him or a job that revolves around you. And now you have hate toxic as Venom. I believe it was SR Striker that was asking about why Eddie Brock hated Peter Parker. So I'm glad Lowell Lucas Jr. stepped in, because this is not a Spider-Man podcast. As for the Jurassic Park movies, I'm a huge fan but can see the scrutiny. JP4 was a huge success and rejuvenised the franchise, but moments and repetitive fan service made 5 and 6 films feel a little with questionable writing. The animated series was great on Netflix, and I'll still be there for Jurassic Park 7 once I heal. I'm with Mary and Luke. Nobody should like Clarion the Witch Boy. That bratty little kid with his obnoxious love of cake should use his talents to fight the other bratty DC child, Morgan Le Fay's snotty son who wants a castle. Yes.
Did I mention that I think one of the reasons I don't like the Witch Boy is because I know people like this.
Mm-hmm. I want cake. It's me, isn't it? Oh my God.
No, it's not just the cake thing. It's just like the whole attitude with it. It's like, I know grown-ass adults that have been like this since they were kids. And I just, every time I see one of those characters, it's like, ah!
Lastly, I apologise for the long tome of low, but appreciate you for reading it, Luke, and with Mary's infamous giggles. May you not have to play the fool to hide your warrior's pain, but grab your cosmic harness, fly out of the storage shed and end your father's tyranny. Till then, Orion out. Zoom! Thank you, Lower Lucas Jr. It wasn't actually that long. If you want a really long comment, it's the next one, but sorry, Mary, go on.
If you would have heard me 5 minutes before the podcast, it was not giggles, but I'm glad I'm giggling now. Because it's always fun listening to you guys. And like, I always say this, but it's just a lot of times I grew up being called like weird and stuff for the things that I liked or how I acted. So it's really nice to have like people that get it. And I don't know, it's really nice to feel accepted. And also it feels really nice to know I'm not the only person that does these things or says these things. And it's actually really cool.
Okay, well, on to the next comment from Big Mikey P, Michael Andre Parlon.
Michael P.
Who says, Schway, 1 hour early, thanks daylight savings. Wonder is an average word. Words like paramour are also riveting to hear, let alone speak, and also Japanese terms like unmei, fate, dakara, because, that is why, therefore, and kansha, thankful, grateful. Can understand Mary not understanding the cool factor of Orion's ride. As said before, I'm one of those folks who never understood the appeal of dragon riding when compared to planes, starships, and even witch broomsticks. No, that doesn't make me not into How to Train Your Dragon. I'm still a fan of the movies, at least the first two, especially the very first one. Yeah, Kirby's art is real nice, and it's cool that the Tim style nails it enough in animation form. However, it's still not as visceral as Alex Ross's hard to animate art. Notting Hill, the movie. No, Notting Hill is a place. The movie is set in. Yeah, the movie is set in Notting Hill, but Notting Hill is a borough of London. Funny. You better be, Big Mikey P, or there's gonna be trouble.
We went to I'm not gonna ask for permission. I never do anyway. I'm gonna interrupt for a second. There is a really wonderful bakery in, I'm sure there's a few of them, but I've only been to one of them, called Olenstein.
It sounds like a Dark Souls boss.
I love that place, even though I've only been once. But here's the thing. They also have it in the States, and I didn't know that. I was watching something recently where they like, oh, I'm like in New York and I'm just gonna go to my favorite bakery, and I was like, oh, okay, it's New York. Every bakery is probably gonna be awesome. And it's like, oh, Old Steed. I'm like, oh,
Well, there you go. Any of our American listeners, if there's one near you, go there. Order. What did you order when you were
the
there?
sourdough was nice. The crusty sourdough.
What sandwich did you get? I can't remember.
It
Is it avocado
was
something?
pesto
No.
and mozzarella, I believe.
Okay.
Because I have to order the vegetarian option most of the time because I don't eat bacon or beef, so I'll just get the vegetarian. Try the pesto mozzarella thing.
Right, to continue Big Mikey P's comment, it says, laughably hope-bringing, Darkseid's biological and adopted sons being on the side of New Genesis after all that's happened. Interesting to know the memorable truce meeting between a DCAU original, not a comic book scene adapted. Well, 1304. The non-DCAU Kingdom Come comics do show off Orion's looks being a red-headed Darkseid. Kind of confusing how and why Orion, at least in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, shares the same voice actor in Clayface and the Teen Titans Slade, among others. Presumably because he was available and he has a firm voice. That's how I would describe Ron Perlman's voice. 1636. I think Orion is still right on the mark. What with theorised implications that DCAU Wally West has had a now cosmic erased Flash mentor named Barry Allen. Alas, Wally's too good to not let that sad, unbelievable secret be exposed and make him break his facade. Darkseid and comfy chairs. Doesn't feel right to me and some others, not unlike the very idea of the Thanos copter. Okay. 23 minutes and 25 seconds. That's one of the DCAU's failings. Never initially explaining that Calibac ain't the Highfather's son, but the then off-screen Mr. Miracle. Even I fell for this criminal adaptation plotline extraction for several years. Ugh. 2544. Gotta love glamour and tech and spells, though. Astro Harness is a cool name and device, all things considered. There you go, Mary. Big Mikey P says it's cool.
Yeah. What's cool?
The Astro Harness.
No.
If one wants hilarious or embarrassing, there's our glorified road planes, crudely called flying cars. True hover cars from Back to the Future and Star Wars when real life. Ningen Tachi. Gotta like the idea of Justice League Unlimited's Destroyer being Apocalypse's vainglorious battle of the Bulge against Earth and New Genesis. Time will tell on my definite opinions on Invincible. I fear it may end so bad like Criff, Voltron, Legendary Defender, and the Troll Hunters saga in their final legs. Best of luck with thine vision, Lowell. 4611. You're referring to Macross's take on holotechnology being able to illusionify flashy clothes on over average ones. That's actually neat, if too advanced for our current time as of yet. 4636. In short, am one who really wants to personally expand on the official works of Alex Hirsch and Darren Nefsey. Ambitiously far-fetched, but I can't deny dreaming. 4833. Sorry, Mary, but some friends and family have said the same about Michael Bay's Armageddon, The English Patient, and maybe even Wayne's World and Clerks. I understand why they like them, but deem them as masterpieces. Please.
Yeah, just Clerks was one of those movies that changed cinema a little bit, which was awesome. But in my opinion, which is very low, it's one of the lowest opinions you can have. Not the opinion of it, but my opinion isn't that important. It wasn't a masterpiece to me, unlike Jay and Silent Bob. I'm joking, by the way.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was joking, by the way.
4912. Still reading it. Lorna Doone is a patient read. Capitalism is still the better option than the temporary hypocritical people's hedonism of communism, and I don't mind doing exploitations against the bunch of people that I'm not going to name because it's a bit controversial. Can't waste valuable time against Jeremy Clarkson. Honestly, he's small fry. Man, Harry Osborn in Spider-Man the Animated Series is a disappointing, forgettable iteration. Good thing we got Sam Raimi's more definitive one. By the way, Spider-Man 2099's canon events are bull roar. That's not how multiverse theory always works. I wonder how the current Looney Tunes movie is going. Doubt it'll be as good as Goop do a film and review Starlight, the movie for me. No regrets. Mine anime, show, sequel, movie biases and recommends. But still, I hope it leaves a top 10 quality mark or whatever and not be plagued with critical overhype. Not that it doesn't deserve the financial profit because of justified reasons, mind you. Anyways, good to hear Coyote vs. Acme got rescued from the Zaslav vault. Valar, I hope the upcoming Superman film is critically and financially better than Mother Griffin Fantastic Four. We already got Pixar's The Incredibles. Please stop the futilities, Marvel. Barbenheimer is less than Godzilla -1. Good game, the standalone Guardians of the Galaxy game. Julia picked well. Shame we never get that Deus Ex 3 from the same devs though due to Embracer issues. For me, Hereafter, Lex Luthor was sincere and covertly bitter that slagging Toyman ended up undoing his fake presidential bid master plan. Hee. I'll say it again, no, Dolan, Tom Kane ain't passed away yet. He only lost his vocal skills. Speaking of Mr. Kane, didn't say becoming a voice actor is damn right impossible if one ain't in New York or California. Always think of subtle silver linings, boyho. I really like the Batman 2004's Mr. Freeze. Really? After experiencing so much of DCAU's Mr. Freeze's increasingly unlikable pettiness. 1 hour, 19 minutes and 33 seconds, because there will be some people unfortunately incompatible with such miracle tech one way or another. And again, the search for vengeance should still be a worthy Highlander standalone. Many thanks for acknowledging how The Incredibles is a great Fantastic Four film we already have, Dolan. Mr. Freeze next. I hope you guys viciously take shade on his DCAU take being increasingly less sympathetic up until Batman Beyond redeems and martyrs him. So, when we sat down to plan out this episode, which is basically like a 2-second conversation, Mary said, let's just talk about Heart of Ice because there's too much to talk about with Mr. Freeze as a whole. So we'll talk about other things like Deep Freeze and Sub-Zero, Cold Comfort and Meltdown in the future.
Yeah.
But thank you for your lengthy comment, Big Mikey P. All right, next we have RJ Productions, who says, Happy Mother's Day, Luke and Mary. I literally checked the calendar today, going, oh my God, is it Mother's Day today? I was like, no, it was Mother's Day a couple of weeks ago. And I did spend time with my mother, yes. So.
Oh, thank you for that. By the way, I spent time with my beautiful babies.
Mm-hmm. They got you a plant, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Gilgamesh, Apollo, and Thor.
Yes, the cats.
Yeah, I am a cat mother.
I always got Orion and Ant-Man confused in my head because of their similar colour schemes.
I can see that.
I can kind of see that too, yes. Also, this is still Harry. I changed my profile pic and my name because I'm rebranding my YouTube channel because my 10-year anniversary has gone past, and I decided to give my channel content a fresh coat of paint and make better quality videos as well as some new content which I won't reveal. I swear this isn't a plug. Well, it sounds like a plug.
Oh, congratulations on 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
I think I've had like 6-7 channels in the past 10 years.
Basically, I want my channel to become more professional and want to expand my abilities of what I can do in terms of writing and content creating. Have a wonderful week, you too. It's good to have goals. Well. Good to have goals.
I have a few goals. Would you like to hear them?
If you want.
I can't remember them.
Very significant, life-changing goals then.
No, there's one goal in mind that we will probably be talking about soon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I just say a funny... I can't stop laughing. I did a funny YouTuber thing there, didn't I?
Did you?
I'm talking about something that I'm not talking about. Right, and telling you that it's coming in a couple of months or something.
Oh, being a tease, that's all.
Yeah. It sounded like I was going to say another word, but I started to laugh as soon as I said it.
I was like, what?
Because I was trying to say funny.
I'm going to move on to the next comment, which is from A1ML33Y, which is Julia Rowell, who says, Hello, true believers, hyperactive Mary and low cosmic energy Luke. That's actually very accurate. It is I, Julia the Watcher, and let me invite you to the blue area of the moon to tell you why I like Jack Kirby's New Gods and Marvel Kirby's Power cosmic characters. First up, I like the New Gods because they reminded me of Thor and the Asgardians over at Marvel. Yes, very much so. The opening pages of the first issue of the New Gods where it shows the destruction of the old gods, Ragnarok. It was basically Asgard, and that was very intentional. Blah, 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 blah. I like how New Genesis, kind of like Asgard and Highfather, reminded me of Odin. I adore characters like Light Ray, Bug, Orion, Barda, and Scott Free, and the Forever People. They kind of reminded me of space hippies in a way, and was parried in Eric Larsen's Savage Dragon comics with their connection to She-Dragon. I really like that comic because it's kind of like Hellboy, but with a more Kirby-inspired... I'm not sure what this word is. Gooped mobsters and weird supervillains. But anyways, I got sidetracked. I like the DCAU New Gods a lot, and I wish they'd got some figures made. I have been reading a few comics of my favourite run that featured them. In my mind is Grant Morrison's JLA that had Barda, Orion, and his cute bulldog, which I wish was a thing in the DCAU. Meanwhile, over at Marvel, I really like Thor and Asgard and the MCU because of the mix of Kirby and Walt Simonson and a little bit of the Ultimate Universe. The thing I like most about the MCU Asgard is their sense of humour. I really like Thor Ragnarok a lot, and Love and Thunder, Loki being cute and Valkyrie being awesome, and the rock guy Korg and the Guardians of the Galaxy. This stuff has got me wanting to read their comics. But with DC right now, here we go, I feel like their shows and movies are lacking a sense of humour and fun. Everything with DC is serious like a heart attack. Like the Absolute Universe is trying so hard to be taken seriously, like the Absolute Flash is going to be a misery fest. And a fire fest like Absolute Batman, who stabbed a villain in their eye, probably killing them. Don't worry, Black Mask didn't die because he called the Joker afterwards. What Absolute Batman chopping off the Joker's head off like he's a Garth Ennis character? You never know, he might do. I have a question. What's the end game of their Absolute Universe? Is it going to end with all the characters dying, like how the Ultimate Universe killed nearly half the characters? Like in that story Ultimatum by Jeff Loeb? God, that was terrible, wasn't it? Will these edgy Absolute versionies beat Darkseid, or did Scott Snyder not think about that when they made this misery universe? Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's all building to something, and all of these comics are presented as commentary on our current times, but obviously everything's kind of turned up to 11. I listened to an interview with Scott Snyder over on Casually Comics channel where he was saying that he is writing about the concerns that his children have, and his children are teenagers going into adulthood, and he's very worried about the state of the world that is being left for them, so he's just kind of exploring that. And you know what? For some people, maybe that's too much. The world is bad enough as it is. They don't need it leaking into their fiction. I can see the argument for that. I don't feel the same way, but I'm not invalidating that point of view. I have another question, Luke, and am I wrong for liking DC Universe characters with a full, complete continuity in history that's edgy? I don't like stripped-down, boring, bare-bones stuff that the Absolute Universe is doing and the evil-looking character designs. Absolute Universe, I just don't like the negative, downbeat vibe of what Scott Snyder is doing. And is Snyder Batman really that good? Tell me, what am I not getting? I wouldn't say that it was better or worse than anything that's come previously. I'd just say it's a different flavour, and we all have different tastes, and maybe peanut butter is not your flavour, but for other people they love it. I've just compared Absolute Batman to peanut butter, smooth peanut butter, of course. Anyway, until next time, true believers, Excelsior. Yes, cramming in more Stan Lee-isms, Julia, very good. All right, next comment. So, Mary, we're moving on to Doc Widener's comment, who says, "Thank goodness you're here."
Thank goodness you're here.
So that game won the BAFTA for the best British game the other week. So there we go. If anyone doesn't know what a BAFTA is, it's like the British equivalent of an Oscar. Finally, I'm feeling better. Never tested positive for COVID, but exhaustion and brain fog felt like it. I wanted to get taxes done weeks ago and just have not felt like I could mentally do them. Hasn't helped being full-time in the office, which is taking more energy than I remembered it taking back when I was full-time in the office a decade or so ago. Yeah, you're telling me. I had to go into the office 4 days in a row the other week, and it really drained me. I'm still tired now. I've been getting a better appreciation of the New Gods the last few weeks. I think I have said before there are elements I liked, but was not a fan of the whole. I do like the more simplified DCAU version, as well as the slightly, for a while, streamlined post-crisis continuity. Speaking of Barda and certain films, is it just me having a dirty mind, or in Legacy Part 1, do they wink at the idea of Kal-El, Lashina, and possibly a few additional Furies have been spending quality time after hours? Yeah, definitely Lashina. It is very much implied. I mean, she's there in his bedroom while he's been sleeping, implying that she got up and they had been sleeping together.
Mm-hmm.
And also, later on, when Superman comes back without his brainwashing, Lashina kind of taunts him by calling him lover and trying to give him a kiss in a menacing way. And that angers him. I was going to say, there would be worse ways to die. I've mentioned before in this rewatch of the DCAU, especially as we get to the Cartoon Network era, they definitely seem to be putting more winks at the parents that may be watching this with their kids. The Astro harness is a little weird looking. It does look like it could fail at any moment. I think he also looks a bit silly because he's usually shown as partly squatting when he uses it. So it looks like he needs to go, or is going, to the loo. Look at me Britishing, yes. I think Season 3 is the best season of Invincible so far. The odd thing to me about The Boys is the people who seem gobsmacked that the Homelander is not a hero. Yeah, I know. Have you not been watching the same show I have? Wasn't thrilled with Huey's interactions with the shapeshifter being played for laughs, but do enjoy the show when not depressed by the resemblance to reality. I'm sorry to hear about Lowell Lucas Jr. is still dealing with vision issues. I think if Warner Brothers sell, it might go to Apple. Amazon has MGM and Disney has Fox. So I think those two might run afoul of antitrust law, assuming those are still enforced in this country. Apple has great shows. Not a lot of catalogue, though. This would give them that vast Warner Brothers library.
You should tell them we finally watched the second season of Severance.
Oh, yes, we did watch the second season of Severance. There were some episodes in it I felt were not very good at all. Like the 8th episode that dealt with... what was her name again? I can't remember it.
Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, I mean, I know Patricia Arquette, but her character's name. Patricia Arquette's character's episode.
Corbell?
Cobell, that was it. Miss
Cobell.
Cobell. I did not enjoy that episode, and yeah, it was like only 35 minutes, but overall it was decent enough. Preferred the first season, though. If you don't know how many movies are in a series, the correct answer to how many movies are in the series is too many. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another comment went missing in action. Sent it to Mary. I'm almost thinking of doing that every week going forward. I'm going to add 2 bits from that comment to this week. First was a question I had for Luke. Why in the first 2 seasons of Justice League did they basically structure the show around 2-parters? I get the 3-parter opener or season finales, but almost everything else except Comfort and Joy was a 2-parter. So the answer is it was to give them more breathing room to showcase the characters, because they felt having a cast of 7 heroes meant they wouldn't have enough time for give each character enough of a spotlight. So to continue the comment, I guess since it was Cartoon Networks and not syndication, they were less worried about kids missing an episode or seeing it out of order. Yeah, that's also probably the case. Now, Justice League Unlimited, especially later second season, leaned into serialization, but earlier episodes had half an hour contained stories that felt just as rich as the 2-parters. Some of those 2-parters really felt like they were stretching them out to get there. Yes, yeah, they absolutely did. Particularly in the first season of Justice League. I think the second season of Justice League was much better than the first. But the first season was really where they were just establishing a lot of these characters, like Hawkgirl and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman. You know, characters that the audience would not already be familiar with because, you know, Superman had his own show, Batman had his own show. We were already deeply familiar with how they worked. Second, and to end with another episode idea, folks who got the fate they deserved, haha, or perhaps folks that didn't, good or bad. What brought this to mind was one of the few JLU 2-parters and the final fate of Kronos, aka David Clinton and his wife Enid, and their eternal time loop out of a Twilight Zone episode. Yeah, that was kind of mean of Batman, wasn't it? It's like, yeah, I dealt with him. Trapped him in a time loop of arguing with his wife.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess, what's the alternative? Because he knows how to make time travel possible.
Yeah.
He would tinker with time again. You've got to do something, and Batman won't kill him, but he may as well be dead. Anyway, on a positive note, we'll move on to the next comment from Ryan Jones, who says, "Hello, Luke and Mary. I'm doing great today. It's nice and sunny. Also, today's Mother's Day. So, happy Mother's Day to all And I got my mum a Cinderella mug for Mother's Day. Mary, I don't understand why you don't take Orion seriously. I do. I take him more seriously than Taserface from the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, or the supervillain team named the Lamos from Totally Spies. I nearly said Lamos.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't take a lot of things seriously.
That's true.
And then when I do take seriously, I take it too far.
Luke, I was supposed to say in the last episode that a real-life villain billionaire that is lesser, smarter than Lex became president. Why would I think that the Orange Con Man is smarter than Lex? I hope I didn't annoy you with my president comment. No, of course not at all. Also, Mary, I am a fussy eater too. Yeah, the Jurassic World franchise is tiring, and the third one, was so boring that it rarely happens. But 3 movies made me feel nothing. As someone who lives in the UK and is an advocate of physical media, I'm really angry about Justice League and Justice League Unlimited and other shows that I like still don't have UK complete full series physical media release. Well, you can get the complete Blu-ray sets on Amazon. They do import them from the US, but they don't really charge you much extra for them, and they do work over here on our Blu-ray players. A lot of Warner Brothers content is region-free. I will say, though, the one downside of the physical media is something I am finding, particularly with my Batman Beyond DVDs, is that they just stop working after a while.
The duties and customs for something like that's not very expensive either. I think it's like $8 for like the DVDs and stuff. But Luke is so right. This has happened to Batman Beyond and Justice League.
Yeah.
And it's quite annoying because if we didn't have HBO Max, thanks, Charlie. I'd be really, really like annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to get digital copies of the things I really like as well as the physical ones.
I'm the same way. Sorry to interrupt you again.
That's fine. I was just going to say it was excessive, but meh.
I'm a digital media gal because I don't like, in my own space, I don't like looking at like DVDs and stuff, or games. Books are a bit different. But yeah, I think it's the colors or something. As I've grown older, I don't like looking at a ton of different colors at the same time if I can help it.
Just to conclude Ryan's comment then, he says, fun fact, this year is Disney's Cinderella's 75th anniversary and also Toy Story's 30th anniversary and a Goofy movie 30th anniversary.
Goofy movie's been out for 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how old I am now.
All right, thank you for your comment, Ryan. Let's move on to the next one. So that's SR Striker, who says, about Orion, I have nothing much to say about him other than he rides that weird hovercraft thing. It's just so odd, especially with the new gods design, as what they do represents as the Greek gods and represents certain aspects of life. And so do others, like the Norse version, as I said in the Big Barda video. On why do Darkseid's minions mostly look beastly, while Darkseid and his beast son look like a troll and then a god whenever you get to him in the video, and where does the name Calabac come from? Also, I wonder, why does Darkseid keep him around if he hates him, because I thought he should have given to Highfather instead of Orion. Haha. I don't think he had been born at that point. Yeah, I'll get into it, but the name Calabac comes from Shakespeare's The Tempest. Little spoiler there for you for the future video whenever I eventually get around to it. And that is minions like Kanto and Vermin Wunderbar wear like old-timey clothing is beyond me, because I could buy Steppenwolf from the Snyder Cut, as he is way better than the one we got, and also the original comics design of being a yellow man. I didn't say that Billy Zane should be a tech bro Lex, as that would never work, as he should be like the cosmic Lex, as a self-made billionaire, and I can imagine Lex being like Mel Gibson's character in Machete Kills. Yeah, I wasn't saying that you had said that, I'm saying he wouldn't have suited the part as it was written for that script. I guess you heard about Transformers 1 movie on Megatron as to saying that Lex giving power on being president. No, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm afraid. I'm not really into Transformers.
Robots in disguise.
Also, I get why Ron Perlman voiced Orion instead of the guy from Apocalypse Now. And the same for the Flash in Speed Demons episode, as he did come back in the 2004 Batman. And it's funny on Still Faster Than Hawkman. And speaking of that, do you consider the DCAU Hawkman a stalker, as you did Frankenstein's Monster and the Bride video, as I don't want to spoil the Shadow Thief either, especially the opening of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie sequel. And here's an interesting video on Hawkman being the most tragic DC hero. Yeah, he is a bit of an obsessed stalker. He absolutely is. They call him that, and I don't think anyone disagrees. Batman says he's a stalker. Green Lantern says he's a stalker. He's a stalker. Anyway, next comment is from David Carney, who says, "Hi, Luke and Mary, I'm doing well, and as of this comment, I'm top of the league, and it has been a long time since that happened. I like the design of Orion, as it's very Jack Kirby. Just wish we'd seen a lot more of him. Hopefully we'll get to see Orion and the New Gods in live action in James Gunn's DCU. Have a good week, both of you." You too, David. Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Next we have Screen Wiper with chicken news.
Chickens!
So, Sunday the 30th of March. Sorry I didn't do a last minute update early enough to make to the episode this weekend. It was sociable and tiring. I went on a date with a lady, went pretty well. Today's less busy. Anyway, the hens...
Hold on.
Right.
You just... First off, email me details. I need to know everything. That's all.
I was just taking a water break. This is another long comment, so I needed to
That's okay.
rehydrate. Contrast to last week's anxiety-induced poor yield, Doris and Mabel have each laid an egg every day all week. I told them multiple times to have a day off, but they didn't want to. Mabel finally had a day off yesterday, but not today, and Doris has insisted on being a workaholic. It may be to do with the emerging springtime and mostly nice weather we had this week. Today has had particularly fine weather, and the hens did a lot of loafing, especially Betty. Nice to see them relaxing. I'm still trying to teach Mabel, to use the mechanical feeder by herself. I'm trying to do less for her now, such as often I don't fully open it, so she has to finish the opening of it herself. She does not like this. The parts moving while she is close to it scares her still.
Aww.
She had a bit of a tantrum about it today and stormed off mid-session having a rant. Mabel is normally pretty quiet, so she was definitely peeved. Doris is really into climbing things right now, and makes triumphant noises when she gets somewhere high up, especially when she manages to jump/fly from one place to another, like an attention-seeking Batman. Updated on the 12th of April. Sorry for the lateness, I am very sick. It's hay fever related. The hens get worried about me when they hear me coughing. All of them are well, though. Mabel made some progress on the feed last week. I didn't need to open it as much myself, and she would put her foot on the pedal to finish opening it. However, lately she has stopped putting her foot on the pedal and expects me to keep it open for her. No. She did the same thing when Betty was eating out of the feeder. Betty took her foot off the pedal, so the lid came down on Mabel's neck. It doesn't hurt her because her fluffy feathers provide enough cushioning, but it does make her more scared of using the machine. It isn't easy training a chicken with anxiety. Speaking of Betty, she is being very lively and chatty. Maybe it's because it's spring, maybe her hormones are wearing off. I'm expecting them too soon. It's probably both, as everyone is more lively at the moment, though Betty does lie down in the shade when the weather is warm. She even let Mabel snuggle with her for once, for a bit anyway. Wilma's hormones have kicked in, and she gets lethargic at times, but at others she runs, climbs, makes a lot of noise, etc. Her lethargy would worry if she hadn't seen the vet twice in the last 5 months for hormone implants, who said both times there's nothing wrong with her and she's in great condition. Doris has laid an egg now every day for the last 19 days. She's definitely excited about spring. Even Mabel only takes a day off once or twice a week now. Doris's comb actually went a bit purple at the back, which worried me as it's an illness symptom. However, it was shortly after I saw Wilma bite her there, for which she was told off, and so I thought it was that. But then I read that natural spring hormones can increase a chicken's blood pressure and cause it too. Correlates with all the egg laying. Either way, it went away after a few days. Doris's eggs are maintaining their quality because she's eating well, getting lots of nutritious mush, which is full of minerals to maintain eggshells. Lastly, we have rats again. The hens do a good job of alerting me when one comes into the garden. When I chase one, Doris tried to get it too. Brave and loyal girl. Sort of thing Blue would have done.
No.
I thought it was our fault they're back, but then I saw it's actually next door. They leave bread out for the wild birds. Loads of it. So much bread, loads of it goes mouldy before the birds even eat it. It's the rats' main food source. I saw them eating it, and I reckon their nest is next door's garden. I have laced the hens' food with chili to put the rats off of it. Birds do not taste the heat of... I can't say this word.
Capsicum?
Capsicum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never been able to say that.
Capsicum. Now I'm...
The spicy thing.
Yeah.
And have put humane traps for the rats in my garden. Catches them unharmed, and I release them in a local park away from people's houses.
So I learned something a couple years back. We're not supposed to feed, like, pigeons and stuff bread.
Mm-hmm.
For multiple reasons. So... do you want me to write a letter to your neighbors? I'm joking.
Dear Screen Wiper's neighbour, please stop leaving your mouldy bread out. It's bad for the birds.
Can you please leave them grapes instead?
All right, well, thank you for the chicken update, Screen Wiper. The next comment comes from Seal Unit 2000, who says, your wife was right about Orion's ride. It does look goofy.
I like you.
Ah, my heart!
I like this person.
It seems like there's mixed opinion. Some people like it, like Big Mikey P. Most other people say it looks stupid, and now I'm starting to think that maybe it does look stupid.
It's okay to admit when you're wrong.
All right. Nightwing Man 666 is next, who says that actually is why Orion is the favourite son. Calabac is a sycophant looking for something Darkseid is incapable of giving: love. The irony is Orion had nothing but hate for his father and wants nothing more than to see Darkseid dead. That hate and a drive is what Darkseid admires. He also knows it pisses Orion off being his son, so any compliments from Darkseid, while genuine, are more of a screw you to rile Orion up. Yeah, absolutely, I can see that. Next we have Teo Jones, who says, I love Orion, but in my opinion the DCAU kind of wasted him. Well, okay, maybe not wasted, more like that they underutilised Orion. I love BTAS, and the conflict between Superman and Darkseid is done very well, but it also gave the impression that Darkseid is a big member of Superman's rogues gallery, and subsequent portrayals of the character in shows and comics have adopted this decision while downplaying the feud between himself and Orion. Kirby initially wanted Orion to be the one to defeat Darkseid, but the higher-ups at DC Comics interfered and ruined those plans, which is very frustrating. I really wish someone would make a New Gods cartoon and focus on Orion and all his struggles. Yeah, I think the original plan was that Orion was going to kill Darkseid and destroy Apocalypse. I recently learned of the existence of that War Dogs graphic novel, which was the last New Gods story Jack Kirby did, and I got a copy of it. And yeah, you can tell that there'd been meddling in it because, there were all these bombs that Darkseid has been manufacturing, and they blew up New Genesis with them, and then Orion blows up the factory that the bombs are being made in, which you would think would blow up the whole planet. And they go, oh yeah, it's blown up half of Apocalypse. Now Darkseid is trapped there. Cough, cough. I think it was being set up for him to be killed. But anyway, long done now. That was in the 80s. There's no point getting upset about it, Mary. Come on, hold back the tears.
Okay.
The next comment is from Mary Susan Mears, who says, if Doc's comment doesn't show up, I have it in my email.
Let's see if it was actually the same one.
Okay. I will go on to the next comment.
That commenter, though, that you just said, wonderful.
Teo Jones'
she's
comment.
got a channel.
Oh, Mary Susan Mears, right.
She will start updating again next month. So
Yeah. Well, while you load up your email and just read through it, I'm just going to move on to the last comment, which is from Michael Dolan, who says, ahoy, Luke and Mary. This probably would fit better as part of a comment on last fortnight's episode. Well done on using Fortnite properly as well. So many Americans don't get that. But I only learned about it this past Tuesday. I've been listening to another podcast here on YouTube called Redacted Declassified Mysteries with Luke Lamana, which deals with true stories of spies and conspiracies, the documented ones like MKUltra, where the CIA assessed the use of various psychedelic drugs as mind control agents during the Cold War by testing them on unsuspected American civilians without consent. The COINTELPRO, where the FBI treated leaders of the civil rights movement as domestic enemies to be sabotaged, discredited and assassinated when necessary. This week's episode covered Project Argo, perhaps best known to you and your viewers as the basis of the Ben Affleck movie of the same name, when the CIA smuggled 6 American hostages out of violent-torn revolutionary Iran in 1980 by disguising them as a film crew scouting locations for a proposed science fiction movie. To make their cover more believable, the CIA used the pre-existing script and production design for a cancelled film called Lord of Light, which the agents displayed and talked about in enthusiastic detail to prove that they were Canadian movie producers and not American spies. Well, guess who was responsible for that portfolio of production designs? None other than Jack the King Kirby. Wild to know that in addition to clobbering fascists in World War II, he also had a handful of genuine daring high-stakes rescue. He also had a hand in a genuine daring high-stakes rescue. I haven't been to every comic shop, so I can't disprove Mary's hypothesis that they all have a wall of rare and or expensive comics, but all the ones I've frequented over the decades seem to do so. In fact, there's one called The Keep about 15 minutes away from me in Bricktown, New Jersey, that was renovated into a comics and game shop in what used to be a bank. They have their wall of rarities in the old bank vault, visible yet safely locked behind a gate of steel bars. That's very cool.
I know, I was literally about to say that. That sounds really cool.
There are no comfy chairs on Apocalypse. That's why Darkseid always takes advantage of every opportunity to luxuriate in them when he comes to Earth. Of course. We know that mother boxes are sentient, source-sensitive living machines in the comics, but is that fact ever mentioned in STAS, Justice League, or JLU?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think...
I can't remember now, actually.
I don't know if they go as far as stating that they are definitely sentient. I don't think they do. If it's not stated explicitly, then the animated versions of mother boxes may simply be pieces of very advanced but non-thinking, non-feeling machinery to be smashed with impunity. I expect the creative team would never have Superman commit murder by demolishing them otherwise. They are not Zack Snyder.
Truth.
When you talk about Orion resisting his violent nature and holding himself to a higher standard, I'm reminded of Star Trek's Lieutenant Worf, a Klingon orphan raised by adoptive human parents. Both characters are the product of a brutal, violent culture. But having been raised... Excuse me, I'm starting to lose it, you can tell. But having been raised away from it, they adhere to a stricter code of morality than is normal even in the society in which they grew up. However, simple direct violence is always somewhere among their list of options when dealing with problems. And funnily enough, Worf actor Michael Dorn is on hand here, voicing Calibac, and John Henry Irons, aka Steel. As for Calibac, the way Darkseid treats him is telling. As Darkseid sees it, he already has Calibac's unshakable devotion. Why would he ever waste the effort on trying to earn what's already his? Darkseid only ever thinks about obtaining what he doesn't and probably can't have, such as Orion's loyalty, perhaps. I don't think Darkseid admires Orion nearly as much as he covets reclaiming him. To Big Mikey P. Too much Doctor Who in the inspiration speeches? The Doctor has been a personal hero of mine for longer than many have been alive. I saw Tom Baker for the first time trying to charm his way out of getting clobbered by a towering chrome-plated robot when I was 5 years old in 1976, and I've loved the show ever since. And I'll not hear an ill word against them. As for too much Andor and not enough Legends continuity love, I picked them because of relevancy, and Andor is very much about navigating the emerging dystopia we find ourselves in right at this moment, and keeping your soul mostly intact while doing so. I tend not to give a single chunky wet fart about canon, beyond determining whether or not I need to have watched, read, listened to Story Q before Story X, so I don't sit there wondering who are these characters, what are the events they're talking about, and why are they acting like I should already know. I detest reality TV ever since MTV started The Real World, which was basically the human equivalent of putting too many incompatible fish in the same too small aquarium just to see which ones get eaten first. It's given rise to an intolerably large segment of celebrities who are famous for being famous without having any actual skills or talents to justify the fame. It's a hideous cycle of being too stupid to realise that they're being exploited and humiliated for the entertainment of other dullards who are too stupid to realise that they're having their worst, basest instincts pandered to. And worst of all, you can draw a straight line from The Real World through Survivor and Honey Boo Boo to the over-promoted game show host currently in the Oval Office, venting the products of his syphilitic dementia all over future histories of the early 21st century.
I stopped watching reality TV, didn't I?
Yes, you did, because it's all manufactured and bogus anyway.
That's not why.
I know.
I stopped watching reality TV because I simply think that it just isn't for me. I tried to, like it because, people that I was working with, like in every job that I've ever had, tend to watch it. And then it's like one day when I saw Kim Kardashian posing with Donald Trump for a picture, I decided, okay, no thanks. And that's not just the Kardashians, it's all of the reality TV stars, because you were right, it is manufactured and they only show us what they want us to see, and it's not actually reality.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Mary on the overabundance of Jurassic Park sequels. I loved the first one, and while I didn't care for the second one, I understood the desire to see a T-Rex rampaging through a major American city. And after that, it's just the same story over and over again. Of course, Clancy Brown's children could enjoy Superman. I just expect he wanted to play a character for them who wasn't a scary villain. I didn't think of Jack from the Royal Flush Gang and Marvel's Jack of Hearts flipping flapjacks, Mary, but dang nabbit, I will now. I await next week's episode with barely contained glee, as Mr. Freeze is my absolute all-time favourite villain from BTAS.
So I think his comment actually did show up.
Yes. Yeah, nearly all of it did, yes. Yeah, I mean, he's rephrased some of it, but yes, that's basically it, yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm sorry, very riveting listening for everyone. We'll be
I
reading
love when I get an email that isn't from, like, Substack telling me of a person I've never followed before, telling me that they've posted, or Amazon, or for some reason, Bays Travel emails me a lot to tell me that they've got new releases, but I look at it and I'm like, love you, Bays, but I've already scoured your website. I've seen this already. Thank you. Good night. As you guys can see what goes through my email. Yeah. And a lot of messages from Luke.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Documents.
Yes. Check this. Here is the script for the subtitles, etc., etc. All right, so that's all of the comments. I've now lost the will to live. I'm afraid I'm just gonna melt into a puddle. But then actually I can't, because I've got so much I have to get done today.
Yeah, we're finishing the comic boxes.
Yes. Okay, so I don't actually know what we're talking about next time.
Next time.
Next time.
So the week after next, for Totally Schway, is that going to be in May?
I have to look at the calendar.
Yeah. So I was born in the month of May.
Well, this is the 27th of April.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a month of, and this is just, I've never done this before, but we're going to have a month of Mary. And we are going to talk about some of her favorite things.
And these are?
The ladies of the DCAU. In particular, we are going to talk about Granny Goodness.
You want Granny Goodness next week?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Granny Goodness. I'm going to write this down.
I was waiting for Luke to say, we've already talked about Wonder Woman. But I want to talk about more of the ladies that we don't actually talk about very often. Mm-hmm. And maybe talk about some episodes we don't talk about very often. Or like mentioned very often that I think are really great.
Yeah, because I don't think we talk very much about Superman, to be honest.
And that's how I'm going to celebrate my birth month.
Mm-hmm.
Because why only celebrate one day? When you can celebrate a whole month of just talking about things that you want to talk about.
Cool.
I'll probably get tired of it within like 2 days.
That's all right, because we do episodes every other week, then it's only really 2 episodes. Well, maybe 3, actually, because the first one's in April, but anyway.
So I'm really excited to talk about Granny Goodness, because, I don't know, she's just one of those characters that you love to hate.
I need to get a list of all of her insults. My favourite one that I can remember.
Oh, God, the
You ninny noo-noo.
Noo-noo.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah. Okie dokie, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sorry for my little low energy. But it's alright. It's because it's a little warm. And I haven't pulled out the air conditioner yet. But I hope you guys have a great week. It is going to be a great, great time this summer. We've got a lot of things to look forward to in terms of like movies and stuff like that. But we've also got really great comments to look forward to, which I'm always excited about because you guys make the world a better place for me. So thank you so much, and I hope all is well.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.